Well, good morning, guys, and welcome to the show. Today, well, you know what this white piece means? It means we're going to be taking a look at another product. And today, we are going to be taking a look at the second kicker amplifier. That's right, we're going to take a look at the PXA1000 that we talked about before. We already looked at the mono block. Now it's time for that awesome 5-channel amplifier. Let's roll the intro, and we'll get right to it. So the new all-weather amplifiers, denoted by this cool picture here, and of course all this stuff on here, is the Kicker PXA1000. Now we just got done looking at the mono block, and it was impressive. It put out its power. It stuck to its play all day idea that is part of this amplifier. This is by far the most popular version. Everyone loves 5-channel amplifiers. We want to take a look at it. We want to dive into it. And as always, let's start with the top of the box and see what it is going to tell us. If you got a chance to watch the one on the 600, it's going to be a lot of the same stuff. If you just want to fast forward to the end to see the dyno on this or see the guts, go right ahead. But for the rest of you, they're like, I've never seen one of these before. Tell me all about it, Dean. Let's just dive deep into it. One of the things we like to do when doing one of these unboxings is dive into all 4 corners, all 6 sides, and just see what it tells us, because a lot of the information that we need to know about this amplifier is right in front of us. In this case, this is a signature Kicker sound amplifier. Kicker power always exceeds rated power. They have logos for that. This is also telling us this is IP66 protection. It's for motorcycles, it's for boats, it's for ATVs, and it's IP67 also. So it has a dual rating. This has to do with how much intrusion of dampness and water can be accepted to this amplifier before it will fault. It's also 1 ohm stable, and this is going to be on the sub output, that 5th channel, not the other 4 channels. People want to know, what can my sub play down to? Speaking of that, it's a 5-channel amplifier. If you speak other languages, Kicker knows this, and they put this information on the outside of the box as well.
Amplificador de 5 canales.
Just like that, it makes it super easy for you. Now, there's a bunch of this little fine print over here. I've said this before, I don't like this on a box. I'm not a big fan. Really what we're looking for is 1,000 watts of total power out of this guy. Hey, if it does 14, cool. I don't like this. If you guys don't like it, let me know. I don't know, I think it's kind of silly to put these things on the outside of the box. Just give me real power. It does 50x4 and 500x1. Just tell me that. Waterproof design with IP66 and 67 certification, ideal for UTVs, space challenged off-road vehicles, and marine application. 1 ohm stable subsection. All right, cool. So we now have all of that taken care of. Let's flip it over and look at the side. We're reprinting the same information as we saw. There is a 50 years of Kicker on the front cover as well. Looking at the other side, same information on that. On the end caps, power rating, and then we also have the serial number, and right here is the first time we actually get all the power ratings. So we got the PXA 4x100, 4-channel full-range amplifier, 600 with sub-channel. So that's pretty cool. Barcodes, all those fun. If we flip it over to the other side, same power rating, and then 5-channel amplifier. So on the sides, there's some helpful information, but on the back here, this is where we get the real, like the meat of our information. Let's zoom in. Waterproof design with the IP certification, high efficiency class D amplifier, intelligent thermal rollback for all day playtime. Now this was a big point when we talked about the last amplifier, because we are going to do a dual test in this, meaning we're going to do an amp dyno with it at full power, yay, and then we're going to do it at a lower power rating so that we can see what kind of power this will put out if, perfect environment, and then like later in the day, maybe 4 or 5 hours later when the batteries have wore down a little bit, we'll see what this is actually going to do. This is a really cool feature though. Included convenient solderless, crimpless coupler for power and ground. Then if we move down here, we see RMS power, watts and channel is 14.4, 1000 hertz. 2 ohm stereo is 100x4, 4 ohm stereo is 100x4, 4 ohm bridged is 200x2, RMS power and watt at 50 hertz, 14.4 subwoofer. We're looking at 1 ohm is 600, 2 ohm is 500, and 4 ohms is 300. Dynamic power, we've doubled down on that. Frequency response on amp 1 1 and amp 2, that's going to be channels 1 through 4, is 10 to 20,000 plus or minus 1 dB. And then the sub is 25 hertz to 200 hertz. Input sensitivity low is going to be 125 millivolts to 5 volts. High level is going to be 1 volt to 40 volts. If you do need to run this high level, you can do it. Selectable electronic crossovers are 24 dB per octave. High pass is going to be 80 to 120 hertz for channels 1 through 4. Low pass is going to be a selectable 60, 80, 100, 120. Subsonic filter is at 25 hertz at 24 dB. That's why the frequency response only goes down to 25 hertz. This does have the Kicker EQ bass boost for the sub only, which is 0 to 6 dBs at 40 hertz of bass boost. The remote control is optional. It is the CXA-RC. If we scroll over here to this side, we can check out the physical dimensions of the amplifier. When you're looking at from tip of the plug all the way to the other side of the amplifier, we're at 13¼ inches. From mounting plate to mounting plate, we're at 12 7/8. Total height of the amplifier is 1 15/16, and the width from side to side is 4½ inches. The pigtails that come on the amplifier are 9 13/16 inches long. And if you're looking to know what it is to your screw points, you're gonna at 2½ by 12 7/16. The nice thing about these boxes is that we have gleaned a ton of information about the amplifier, and we haven't even opened it up yet. It's one of the things that Kicker does on their boxes, which is kind of cool. If it is sitting there on a shelf or something like that where you just want to pick it up and take a look at it, you can. It'll tell you a bunch of information. You don't have to go out to the website or open the box up and grab the, wait, there is no instruction manual. There's a basic instruction manual here, and then there's a, if you like more information, scan here for the actual owner's manual. It did come with this piece of paper, so let's take a closer look at it. First up, it is going to give us some basic system wiring on how you may be using this. We need to power 4 coaxial speakers, some form of a subwoofer. It's going to give you your sub input RCAs, your amp 1, amp 2 are front and rear. The optional bass knob input is located with a cap on it so that if you don't have it, it won't get water inside of it. It has a remote turn on and shows it connected to power and ground. It also explains the color wiring. It uses standard radio wiring, so you have white, gray, green, and purple, which is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Thing is it could be going in a boat. Passenger driver could be different, so this would be the left front, the left rear, the right rear. If we move down into the gray box information, we have the model number and the fuse rating. This takes 150 amps of fusing. This is nice that they put this right here so you don't have to go search the web's owner's manual. Power and ground wire, we're looking at a 0 gauge on this, guys. Wow. Recommended power kit is the PKD1. All the way here on the bottom of the instructions, talks about the removable panel that is located on the bottom of the amplifier. It's going to have a bunch of dip switches and some gain controls in it. And those dip switches are going to control how this amplifier is configured. Fader, sub input, and input level. First one being that, it says on and off. For input level, you have high level is on, low level would be off. Sub input using amp 2 or sub, on is amp 2 RCA input, off is subwoofer input, and then fader on and off, which is actually backwards. So if the switch is in the on, the fader is off. It is in the off, the fader is on. Moving on over to the crossover configuration, on and off. Your high pass filters are selectable. You have amp 1 and amp 2, so they can be different. You have 80, 120, or off, or not available. So if you're running something that has like a boat DSP or DSP and you don't want to use the crossovers, it goes off on, 80 hertz is off off, 120 is on off, and then off altogether is both of them on. And that holds through over to the low pass crossover. You have 60, 80, 100, or 120. The thing missing here with this configuration is you do not have a bypass for it, so you can't shut it off. It is always going to be on. And then you have your sub bass boost, 6 dB on and off. It's not variable. It's either you get 6 dB, you don't get 6 dB. For that, it is in the on position you get it, in the off position you don't, and then your gain. With that out of the way, let's take a look at what comes inside of the box here. These are the little coupling terminals to allow you to connect into the amplifier. This is the weird part because it says 0 gauge as an input, and like these are clearly like a 4 gauge. So let's go back and take a look at that. Power wire 0 gauge. What I think they've come up to this with is, if you're looking at like a standard 17-foot run, would denote why this says 0 gauge. And let's just check that on our math. Looking at our power chart here, if we look at 150 and we come over here to 4 gauge, we're good for 10 to 13 feet, whereas a 17-foot run, which is very common for a car, it's going to say 2 gauge, which there isn't too much 2 gauge out there, so that is going to be a 0 gauge. If you are going to be running it in the 10 to 13 foot range, then you're good with a 4 gauge power wire, which makes a lot of sense. And these are the connectors, so if you are going to go 0 gauge, these are not going to work. You will need to exchange it out for a bigger version of this. And how this works is it has a screw down terminal on this end, a screw down terminal on this end, and the wire passes through here and locks into place like so. And it wobbles right now, but if once you put the wire in here, it becomes nice and tight and it won't wobble. So keep that in mind if you're planning on going over that 10 to 13 feet power wire input. Inside here is also some stainless steel screws. The main power harness is all red tied together here. Let's break it into its corresponding pieces, take a closer look. On the end of the amplifier, all this is happening. It is this giant waterproof connector. It has this metal trim around it that is bolting this plastic piece directly into the amplifier. Once we take this apart, if it's anything like its little brother, the 6-channel, there's like a ton of epoxy. Like this is never leaking or coming out of here at all, ever. So coming out of the amplifier, we have a blue power, we have a black ground. Next to that, we have the blue remote turn on. Following along, we have the 12 gauge sub wire, and these are all regular standard wire. Like this is the stuff you buy from Kicker, so if you want to make it all match, you can. Next up, we have the little covered tip here, which is for that bass knob. Our 6 RCAs are located here. Tell you right on the side where it says sub right, sub left, amp 2 left, and so on. And then we have our speaker outputs located here, and that standard color config like we talked about. Solid is positive, stripe is negative. If you were worried about not remembering all that or accidentally like misplacing that piece of paper that has this information, no fear, it is printed on the back. But let's take a look at the front of this guy, which to me is a very clean and nice looking amplifier. I really dig the way they put these like gills on the side of the amp. It wraps all the way around. It's tapered here in the end. It's very Kicker feeling. It's really nice. It looks like the amp is breathing through there, but it's not. This is obviously totally sealed because it's a marine amp. This piece of tape that is on here is so that depending on how you mount this amplifier, this will peel off, and on the back side of it is some double-sided tape. If you want to change the configuration of the amplifier, you can do that. Or make your own custom logo to stick in here, you can. If you look at the end of the amplifier, it just has the model number of the amplifier. There are 2 lights located here in the end to tell you what is going on with the amplifier, both power and protect. And the first thing we want to get off is this cool little window here to take a look at those switches that we've been talking about. Even though the screws are small, it is using a number 2 head screw, which is nice. I hate looking for a number 1. This is a piece of aluminum, and on the back side of it is rubber. These shiny spots are the openings for these holes here, but this is a full rubber piece. Gasket is the same size as this metal cover. Getting in really close, there's your screwdriver head. These are your switches. So these guys are small. You're not going to want to use like a big flathead screwdriver or something like that. Find yourself something small like a pick tool. Get in and adjust these. They are tiny. Like they are really tiny. Be careful when adjusting these. They don't need a lot of pressure. The nice thing is they're set and forget. You don't need to go back into them. This is some form of a programmer or expansion port located here. And now you can just use your flathead to adjust your gains that are located right here. And since we've talked about what all of these are for, I'm going to pull these 10 screws so we can take a look at the inside of these things. I don't recommend taking the back off the amplifier. With the bottom off, we can really take a look at and appreciate the amount of work that must go into building this and putting it into this small housing. Compound that with the fact that this is an all-weather amplifier, which makes it even more interesting, because one of the things a lot of people don't think about is like a watercraft or an ATV or something like that. They bounce around and they are constantly shaking. To build your amplifier to take that shake and that bounce and that abuse, like we've all been in a boat before where it's like hit that and boom and we're like, ow. Well, our amplifier has to still work. Let's take a closer look at it. I'll show you what I'm talking about. You can see here, like this power supply has this giant amount of what basically feels like some kind of silicone, which I'm sure is a thermal silicone of some kind, because we know this is going to get hot. But there's no way we're getting this out of here. They've got it on the smaller toroidal over here, and then when you look closer, like you could see all this. This is the conformal coating. That's the epoxy they put over this to seal it up and also lock it into place. These are never coming off here. Like, you're not fixing this circuit board if you guys screw this thing up, so don't screw it up. Look in here, you have all of this where they've just filled this whole area in so that this guy won't bounce around and it won't break and it won't come apart. And we'll come over here to this end where the wires are coming in, and this is actually clear. They filled this whole end up with this resin of some kind that is holding all of this plate. You can't even unplug this. This isn't coming off. You can see the bubbles from where this was filled with the goo they put in it to make sure that no moisture gets in through this power plug. There's also gasket material that is here, like you can see it. Like if I lift this up, you can see where the gasket is in to keep all that water out. And there you go, standard wire just coming into the board, soldering into place. This is it. This is the amplifier. This is the inside of it. Lots of capacitance, output devices. It's all right there. The sister board to control all of your crossovers and your gains. You can see like all the conformal coating that's on it. I find it all very fascinating looking inside of one of these amplifiers, because for one, I don't design amplifiers, so I don't even know what half this stuff does, but it just looks cool because I mean, you had to figure out the most efficient way to do this. And with that, let's take this over to the amp dyno, see what kind of power this thing is going to put out. Like I said, we are going to do a double amp dyno on it because we want to see that all day play. We want to see what this does at low. We want to see what this does at high power, meaning fresh batteries. Let's go. It's kind of an important thing to know if we're going to be playing on the lake all day, right? Let's head over and see what it does. First test up is the certified dyno run. Remember, all channels are loaded down with resistors so that we can get the most accurate test possible. Let's get started. That gave us 790 watts. Let's reset and do the low voltage test. Allowing it to run into low voltage, we had 627 watts. Continuing on with the sub side of the amplifier, uncertified, 1 ohm. 877 watts, low voltage is next. 680 watts on this one. Our final test on the sub portion of this amplifier will be the dynamic run at 1 ohm. Wow, our high voltage test with all channels loaded gave us 1020 watts into 1 ohm. Let's reset and see what it does at low voltage. And the amp put out 872 watts into 1 ohm during the low voltage test. Next up is the certified dyno run. We are going to be doing just a 4 ohm run, and that test brought us to 124 watts. Let's try the low voltage test. Our low voltage test got us at 115 and 112. Next up is uncertified 4 ohm. That gave us a 133 on both channels. Let's reset and do the low voltage test. 115 and 112. Next up is the dynamic power run 4 ohm. Dynamic power gave us 126 and a 120. Let's reset and do low voltage. With a 116 and a 118, that finishes out these tests. And there you have it, guys. That is our unboxing and dyno of the Kicker PXA1000 5-channel all-weather amplifier. This thing is a beast. Awesome, right? Fantastic. Well, hey guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, leave us a comment. Tell us how you like these. Let us know what amplifier you'd like us to do next. We'll let Kicker know and we'll get it out to you. Fernando, if you please.
On to the next one, guys.
You guys have a great night as always, and we'll see you later next time.
Bye.